This is a sad story of Ola, a young beautiful girl who was born and raised in Enugu State, Nigeria. Growing up, life was always a struggle for Ola and her family. Her parents, Mazi Okoro and his wife, worked tirelessly to make ends meet, but no matter how hard they worked, it never seemed to be enough. Their house was small, always overcrowded with relatives. Many days, they go to bed without food. Despite the hardship, Ola was determined to change their story. She had always dreamt of something bigger. She wanted to leave the poverty behind and was driven by the belief that she could create a better life for herself and her family. When Ola turned 20, an unexpected opportunity came that seemed like a life-changing opportunity, a chance to move to Canada. Ola was excited to finally leave the village in search of a better life, but the idea of leaving everything she had ever known was terrifying. But it was the opportunity of a lifetime. She could already picture it. She would send money home, build a house for her parents, give her siblings a better education, and change the narrative of her family's life. The decision to leave was not easy. It meant saying goodbye to her friends, her family, and the familiar streets of Enugu. But she packed her bags with hope in her heart and dreams for a brighter future. When she arrived in Canada, the reality of being on her own in a foreign country hit her like a freight train. She didn't know anyone. She could barely speak the language, and the weather was nothing like she had ever known. Her first few months were filled with tiredness and loneliness. She did whatever jobs she could find, cleaning offices, washing dishes in restaurants, babysitting, and a lot more. The pay was minimal and the hours were long, but she kept going. She told herself that it was just for a few years. This struggle would one day turn into success. She reminded herself that she was working for her family who were suffering in Nigeria. Over time, things began to improve. She found a steady job at a local grocery store. It wasn't the best job, but it was something. She rented a small apartment. The apartment was far from ideal. It was small, cold, and not well furnished, but it was better than sharing an apartment with over 10 people. Every month, without fear, she sent most of what she earned back home. She sacrificed her own happiness so that her family could have a better life. She knew that if she kept working hard, one day she could build them a house, a place they could call their own, a place far better than all the struggles they had ever known. She didn't just send money for food and bills. She paid for her younger siblings' education, sent her parents money for medical expenses, and helped her extended family when they were in need. Every penny she sent was like an investment into the dream of a better life for her family and for herself. Years passed, and while she was building her life in Canada, her family was building their dream back in Enugu. She told them about her vision and her dream of building a nice house for them, a home where they could all come together and celebrate life. They were happy, and they told her not to worry, that they would take care of everything. Just keep sending the money, and we will make sure the house is built just the way you want it. She believed them. Every month, she sent money for the construction of the house. She worked overtime, picked up extra shifts, and sacrificed the pleasures that many of her friends in Canada enjoyed, just to make sure that her dreams come true. She focused on her goal, believing that all the hard work, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices would pay off when she finally returned home to her own house in Enugu. Year after year, she kept working hard and sending money home, trusting that the house was being built as promised. Her family would send pictures and videos of a beautiful home, large windows, a tall gate, and a well-kept garden. Every time she saw those images, her heart swelled with pride. She pictured herself walking through the front door, sitting in her living room, surrounded by the home she had worked so hard for. The thought of it kept her going. After 15 long years of struggle and sacrifices, Ola decided it was finally time to go home. She had built a life in Canada, but the dream of returning home, seeing her family, and stepping into the house she had worked so hard for was a dream too powerful to ignore. She booked her flight with excitement and expectation, knowing that everything she had worked for would soon be realized. The journey back felt like a lifetime. As she arrived in Enugu, she felt a rush of emotions. She was returning to the place where her story began, the place where her family had supported her through it all. And now she was going to see the home that she had built for them with so much love. When she arrived at the address her family had given her, she was eager to finally see the house. She had imagined this moment for so long. But when she got there, she couldn't believe her eyes. There was no house, not even a foundation, just an empty plot of land. The place that was supposed to be her home was nothing but dirt and dust. Her stomach twisted in confusion and shock. This can't be right. It must be a mistake. She immediately called her family, praying that they had made a mistake. "What happened to the house?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Where is it?" But when she confronted them, there was no remorse, no apologies. They laughed at her as if it didn't matter. "Do your worst," they said, their voices cold and unconcerned. The betrayal hit her like a punch. Her own family, her parents. She couldn't believe it. Everything she had worked for, all her sacrifices, had been for nothing. Her family had been lying to her all these years. All her sufferings for the past 15 years, all the money she sent to them, they took it and spent it on their own pleasures. The house wasn't real. The dream she had worked so hard to build was a lie. And the people she trusted and loved the most had taken it all from her. She stood there in the heart of Enugu, her heart shattered. Her dreams were gone. The money was gone. She was left with nothing but regret and betrayal. She couldn't stop crying. How could they do this to me? How could they betray my trust after everything I have done for them? She confronted her family again, hoping for an explanation, but they just looked at her without an atom of regret. They didn't care. They told her to forget about it, as if it was nothing. They didn't see the years she has spent away from home, working endless hours, living a life of sacrifice, all to give them a better future. They didn't care about the pain they had caused her. She was broken, but there was nothing she could do. After all, they were her family. She returned back to Canada after a few days. As she sat alone in her small apartment in Canada, she kept wondering how it all went wrong. How the people she loved more than anything in the world could betray her so completely. The reality is, she learned a painful lesson. Sometimes, the ones you trust the most can hurt you the most. Not everyone, not even family, deserve your trust. If Ola could go back, she would be more cautious. She would have paid more attention to the warning signs, asked more questions, and demanded for more transparency. But life doesn't give second chances, and she is left to pick up the pieces of a dream that was never meant to be. This is Ola's story, a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and shattered dreams. I hope anyone who hears it learns from her mistakes. Be careful who you trust, even when it's family, because sometimes those closest to you are the ones who can destroy you the most. Alright guys, this brings us to the end of the story of Ola. Please drop your comments and tell us the moral lesson of the story. What did you learn from the story? Please drop your comments and let's hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you. See you again in my next story. Bye for now.